Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome to my channel. A lot of you probably know that I was recently diagnosed with 2 chronic illnesses. I was diagnosed with dysautonomia and then POTS, which stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and it's a big mouthful for something that basically means that my central nervous system or my autonomic nervous system doesn't function properly. And I've talked kind of a bit about this on my Instagram, and I don't think I've talked about it on here yet, but I reached out to you guys and just thought that I would do a little Q&A on kind of what living with chronic illness has been like since I was diagnosed, and just trying to spread some awareness, I guess. So I took to Instagram a few days ago and just reached out and asked if you guys had any questions that you wanted to ask me about dysautonomia or POTS, or just kind of what dealing with that has looked like for me. And you guys actually had a lot of really good questions, and so I'm just gonna get right into it. Do you feel that you are not believed due to lack of visual evidence of disability, and how does that affect you? Yes, all the time. I feel like people have a really hard time understanding something, especially when they either haven't experienced it or you can't see it. So like physically, on the outside, I look super healthy, I hope. And, you know, I look, I look normal and like there's nothing super wrong with me. And so that's why they call a lot of chronic illnesses, they call it like an invisible illness. And that's just because you can't actually see any of it on the outside because it's all happening internally. And so I've definitely dealt with that, just feeling like I almost need to validate myself and validate my illnesses to other people as I'm explaining them, just because, you know, I'll get comments like, well, you look fine, like, you don't look sick, so what's the problem? What are your main symptoms? So I deal with lots and lots and lots of fatigue, dizziness, lightheadedness, circulation issues, digestive problems, nausea, anxiety, mood swings, insomnia, heart palpitations. I have chronic pain, and I experience a lot of brain fog and that sort of thing. How has your life changed since you were diagnosed? I would say it's changed pretty drastically. I used to have a part-time job at a coffee shop, and I used to be a barista, and I loved my job, loved my coworkers, loved just being there. And then after I was diagnosed, I was told by my doctors that I had to quit my job because being on my feet for 6 to 8 hours a shift was really negatively affecting my health. And so I'm currently focusing on music and focusing on YouTube and just trying to keep my focus just on things that I enjoy doing. But I do spend a good probably 90% of my time at my house now, and it is hard for me to get out, and it's hard for me to go like grocery shopping or go Christmas shopping at the mall. Like, you know, I can push myself and do it, but it's not an easy thing. And I was already somewhat used to that with my brain injury and just like all the stimulation stuff. Like I've had stimulation and like sensory overload issues with my traumatic brain injury, but with the dysautonomia stuff, I feel like it's gotten a little bit more intense. And so it is hard for me to sort of get out and just do normal things, normal day-to-day things. And so a good 90% of my time is spent at home on my couch or in bed or just drawing, writing, singing, you know, things like that. So it has changed quite a bit. What's the hardest part about being sick? This is probably a really unexpected answer, but I think probably people is the hardest part, because I think people can be really quick to judge things that they don't understand themselves. And a lot of times if they don't physically see you disabled or see you looking sick, then they just don't believe that you are. And so there's been times when I've had to cancel plans last minute because I had a flare-up or was really, really exhausted and didn't feel like I could push myself through it. And then people will kind of make judgments on that, or kind of give me some grief for it and make me feel really bad for having to cancel, even though it's like I didn't want to cancel, but I had to. And very recently, I actually had some people gossiping about me, saying that they thought I was faking it and that I wasn't actually sick. And that was really not very fun to deal with, because it's like, it's not fake. It's very, very real. And it's a very real part of my life. And so to have other people doubt that you're sick when you've fought for so long just to get a diagnosis, and to believe that you're not crazy, it's like, to have other people doubt it is challenging. Would you trade away your illnesses and its pain for your talent in music if you could? I think this person's saying, like, would I trade, like, being able to play instruments and sing and all of that if it meant that I didn't have to deal with chronic illness? I think that's what they're saying. No, I wouldn't trade it, because I think that it's all happening for a reason and it's part of God's plan, and I wouldn't want to change it. I think that it's all happening, like I said, happening for a reason, and I think if anything, it's given me more time to focus on music and more time to write and more time to record, and that's something that I'm really passionate about, and so I would never want to give that up. What do you use for pain during a flare-up? I do like lots of Epsom salt baths and lavender essential oil, and then I use like ice packs and also heating pads. So depending on the type of pain that I'm experiencing, if I think it's caused by just like really bad inflammation, then I'll typically use an ice pack and some lavender essential oils. And then if it's more like just feeling really, really achy and sore and tender and that sort of thing, then I'll use my heating pad and I'll take Epsom salt baths. And all those things are super helpful. And then on top of that, I just rest a lot. Netflix and I are very good friends now. How did you get sick? So we don't actually totally know, but I think that it has to do with the fact that I've had like 4 concussions, one pretty intense traumatic brain injury, and then we also think that I had mono at the beginning of this year. And so I was sick for, actually, I think you guys, if you've been on the channel for a little while, you probably remember that I couldn't post for like 2 or 3 months, and that's because I was sick with mono, and just, it was not good. But I think that the combination between the concussions and the brain injury and then the mono, I think all of those things together triggered the dysautonomia stuff, and so I think that that's how I got sick. How do you find a purpose living with chronic illness? For me, I am really, really, really big on creating, and so I like to spend a decent amount of my free time just writing or recording or drawing or painting or just focusing on things like that. And for me, that kind of fulfills that sort of sense of purpose at this time in my life. I think another thing too is just talking about it and sharing about it, especially on social media, because I think it helps to spread awareness, and I think it also is really good just to show like the reality, life is not always perfect, and I think, apps like Instagram and stuff make it really easy to believe that somebody has it all together and their life is totally perfect and a-okay, and it just opens that door for comparison a lot. And so I think for me, I've really been trying to focus on just being more open about it and more open about my struggles, and here's what I'm dealing with, and here's the good, and here's also the bad and the ugly. And I think it just has hopefully helped to encourage people and helped to just make people feel a little bit less isolated in their struggles. And so that's also kind of my goal with that, and again, just fulfills that sort of sense of purpose. How can you make a difference in life while having a chronic illness? I think just the same thing that I was just talking about, just sharing about it, talking about it, spreading awareness, sharing your own stories with it, and just filling people in just on some of the struggle and some of the reality of it. and just showing people that they're not the only ones going through something, that they're not alone in that struggle. How can we, a friend, a parent, a total stranger, help you when you are having a chronic episode? That is a very good question. I definitely can't speak for everybody on this, but for myself personally, I appreciate it so much when somebody takes the time out of their day just to do a little bit of research and to research dysautonomia and POTS and research how it affects my day-to-day life and kind of what the symptoms are, and here's what's happening inside my body and that sort of a thing. And I think it just really kind of gives a better sense of understanding, which is so huge because it can be very, very isolating and very, I don't know what the word is, but just very, very isolating. So I think just by caring enough to take some time to research it, and even things just like, you know, sitting around with me watching movies on the couch when I'm having a bad day, or making me some tea, just like tiny little acts like that are huge and mean a ton. I'd also like to add that I think having company sometimes can be really huge, like just not being alone when you're having a flare-up, you know, having somebody to watch TV with, or having somebody to just sit there and be there next to you while you're feeling really crappy is big. What medicines or supplements do you take, and do they help? So I take kind of a mixture of things. I do like probiotics, I do vitamin D supplements, vitamin C supplements, CBD and THC. I use marijuana medicinally, mainly just at night to help me sleep, or if I'm in a lot of pain, and that'll help me. I use calcium. I have just a multivitamin that I take. I have this supplement called Ambrotos, which is by a company called Manatech, and I take that. I take 2 of those every single day, and it's just like natural stuff and has like aloe vera and just super healing properties like that in it. I take this supplement called, I think it's called Lauracidin, and it's mainly used just to treat like candida and yeast and gross things like that that build up in your gut. I'm pretty sure that there's like 2 or 3 other things that I take that I'm forgetting about, but that is kind of the general list of things that I take. What makes you most happy? Ooh, I'm gonna have to think about that. Definitely my dogs, my sweet little puppies. I love cuddling with them all the time, and they are my little sick buddies. I really enjoy playing video games, and so I've been grinding at Fortnite recently. And that's nice too, because it's kind of a distraction, so like if I'm having a bad day or if I'm in a lot of pain, like I can play that and it just takes my mind off of myself and onto like something that I actually enjoy. So Fortnite. I hope that's not cringy of me to say. I also love getting outside. I love being outside, so just any time that I can get out is just fantastic. I love flowers a lot. I love how they look, I love how they smell, I love keeping them around the house. You can't really see, well, I guess you can kind of see behind me, like I've got some right there, and they're fake so that they don't die. And then I've got a bunch of plants up on some shelves that are past the camera angle. And yeah, I love plants and flowers in general. Music makes me happy, and writing makes me happy, and just creating in general makes me happy. Are you happy that you found the illnesses now rather than later in life? See, that's a tough one, because on the one hand, yes, and then on the other hand, no. I would say that I'm really fortunate that I have the support system that I do. And I don't know if I would have that necessarily later on in life. Like if I was living on my own and maybe didn't have family close by or something, and then I got diagnosed, I think that would be really hard. And so in that sense, I'm grateful that I was diagnosed early on while I'm still living at home, and my parents are here, and I get to see my sister often, and have a lot of close friends and that kind of thing. And so I think that that's one plus. But then on the other hand, there is a part of me that wishes that it would have come later in life so that way I could kind of enjoy my youth a little bit more and get to do normal things more often. So, yes and no. And the very last question is, how do others react to you telling them about your illness? Do they care, feel sorry, or try to empower you? It's kind of a mixed bag. You definitely get a lot of like very sympathetic responses and a lot of like, oh, I'm sorry, and you know, that must be really hard and things like that, and just like well-intentioned comments like that. But then you'll also get people that go like, well, you look fine, like, what's wrong with you? Like, you know, that just don't really understand it. So it is a mixed bag. You get those people who kind of doubt that you're actually sick or think that you're faking it or think like, well, you look fine, so you are fine kind of a thing, and that just isn't true. I think some of the best responses that I've received, though, have been just from other people who are dealing with chronic illness, and those responses are always really great and very empowering and very much like, I actually do understand what you're dealing with, and it's valid, and you got this, we got this, we're in this together kind of a thing, and I really appreciate those responses as well. Anyways, that is gonna have to do it for this video. I know it was super long, but I wanted to answer as many questions as I possibly could because you guys asked a lot of really good questions. So thank you so much for sending in your questions. Thank you for watching, and just for taking the time to be here and support me on my little channel here. Let me know if you guys want me to make more videos like this where I just go kind of more into depth as far as just my health stuff, and I can definitely make more videos like this, and I would be happy to do that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!